There we go.
All right. So who wants to start?
I'd be okay starting, or maybe, yeah, Megan, if you want to go. Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. You can go ahead.
Okay. So mine's pretty simple, but I just wanted to start out talking about what I liked about this class. So something that I really liked is that their projects apply to real life, because I feel like we all have a lot of classes where we go in and we have to take, written exams or do a lot of written assignments. And I really like that we have a lot more projects in this class that have been able to help us in our future education careers. And also, I've noticed that a lot of people in the class say that they've been able to use it in other ways as well. A lot of their favorite projects are things that they've done more than once that they've been able to apply it. For example, I had a calling this last semester where I was an activities coordinator, and I was able to use Canva or Canvas, like the, I guess, I don't know, it's called Canva, but sometimes when I type in Canvas, it pulls up. But I was able to use a lot of like posters from that and already start using that in my situations in life. So that was really amazing. And I noticed a lot of other students had that same experience. And so I really like that the projects are varying. And even though a lot of times you can't hit it on the head all the time, there's always going to be one project that maybe one student doesn't like, or things like that. But overall, I feel like each project was effective and helped each person in different ways. Something that I would change though is also with the projects, there was a project called Nearpod and a project called Flipgrid. And Nearpod came before Flipgrid. But when I look at Nearpod and Flipgrid, I've noticed that Flipgrid can be applied to Nearpod. And when that was being taught, they would always be like, oh yeah, Flipgrid can be used, but I don't think as a class we had any idea what that really was. So none of us were able to use that on our Nearpod. So I think it would be more effective to do Flipgrid first and then Nearpod, so people can apply Flipgrid to their Nearpod. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I know we were the Nearpod group, and so I definitely loved working on the Nearpod project. I thought it was super entertaining and really fun, but I agree. I think the order of events might have been a little switched up, and it might have been a little bit easier to understand and go into it had we already, covered that. So great insight.
Thank you. Yeah. And that finishes my insight on the class, but whoever wants to go next can take it away.
I can go.
Let's do it.
I really liked the oral exams. I didn't like them at first, I have to be honest, because it just stressed me out. Because even if I did the reading super in depth, I didn't feel prepared at first. But then when I realized, to me, the oral exams are more like a collaborative discussion, and that's the aspect I liked about it. And it became a lot less stressful when it just felt like a discussion that was going on. Something I didn't really love was having a major project due every week for the class. At least the point I'm at in my major, I have a lot of classwork and coursework where I have to do a lot of in-depth stuff. So the projects were fairly simple for this class. They weren't, asking a whole lot, but just finding a way to work it in with all my other schoolwork and getting it done on time. That was a struggle for me.
I have a question on that. So from the data, or also from your personal experience, like which projects would you like to take out? Because you said a lot of them were simple, but which ones do you think were like simple and not really effective?
Well, like y'all said with Flipgrid and Nearpod, if there was some way to combine those two together, maybe, since they go with each other so much. I liked the Canva project, but then again, it was just making a poster, basically, and also the Animoto. introducing ourselves professionally and our philosophies. Yes, it's important to have that, but at the same time, I don't see myself using that much after I get a job.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. There were a couple, like the poster one in the beginning, and like it was really nice because it was super simple, and so it wasn't as overwhelming for us in the beginning. But yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily something I'll use later in life. But yeah, so I understand what you're saying. And then as
Something.
far, oh yeah.
Oh no, go ahead. You finish up, and then I'll say what I was thinking.
I was just thinking, and also like as far as the oral exam, it totally did at the end just feel like a really effective discussion. And if only it could just feel like that in the beginning, because it made me so stressed. Like the humiliation if I did not know the answer in front of the whole class, and everyone knows I'm gonna get points docked. It just stressed me out. And so if it could have been like a more casual feeling, that would have been really nice.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you guys. I think that the group discussions were amazing and so effective and really stimulating, and especially as like, future teachers, it really got us to think about the world around us and the education system. And I love how passionate Bropa is about stuff like that, because it also like reflects on me. I want to mirror that, and I want to be equally as passionate. So I do my reading. Except for it's the one thing I don't understand is when you read like the syllabus, he says, I don't know if it was in the syllabus or something he said in class, but he says you should not spend more than 1 hour on your reading. If you spend 1 hour on your reading, that's perfect, cap it off there. But then if I do 1 hour of my reading and I don't feel like that was all of my reading, I am not going to go into this oral exam feeling confident. And so that was the one thing that I didn't understand. He said 1 hour of reading and cap it off there. But then again, we have like an oral exam the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really make sense to me. So
Yeah.
I always went above and beyond and did like an hour and a half or 2 hours of reading. Just making sure I double checked everything. I analyzed everything. I took really good notes. That way I would be super prepared. And I guess that's just kind of the kind of student I am. And along with the projects that we did, I love them. And I just actually had an assignment last night in which we had to use EdTech tool. And they gave us a list of EdTech tools, and my group was complaining because they knew none of them. But I knew the majority, and I think it was from this class especially. And so I think what we're doing is really effective, and I don't even think we realize that yet, like how effective it is. Because like it was like Nearpod formative assessment. I was like, oh, it is formative assessment. That's amazing. And yeah, I think Bropa does a really good job of rounding everything out.
I think this class really does pertain to just the worldwide situation right now with the pandemic, because a lot of these tools that we're learning to use are interactive and can be used remotely. And I think that's really important because I have a younger brother, he's in high school right now, and his thing that he would complain to me about a lot was how he didn't really feel like he was learning. He was doing assignments, basically teaching himself because the teachers didn't know how to use the technology provided. And this is a class where we're specifically learning how to use educational technology. And then one other thing, rounding back to the oral exams, there was one day I woke up late, I was running so behind, and I entered class maybe 5-10 minutes late. And I was put right on the spot with the oral exam, and I was like, oh, like I literally just entered the class. And I did not give an answer that I wanted to give. Like it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's gonna dock me entirely. And then I'm someone who talks a lot sometimes, especially in discussions, if I really loved what we read. And I loved all the readings for this class, honestly. They were all really good and insightful. And I participated throughout the rest of class, and when it was graded later, I got full points. And I guess that's because I was able to redeem myself through that. So yeah.
Something I wanted to add on to this. So first off, I'm going to go back to the projects. So I think overall what I've been learning from us talking about the projects is that overall they're really effective and that you can't please everyone, But something that maybe could also change with the projects is maybe simpler ones that students could do on their own time or have maybe already learned about in other classes could just be combined. So example, like the Canva one, you could maybe like present that that's an option and maybe, you know, have students look at it on their own time, or you could group that with a few other things and have students pick one that they want to do and learn about more. That way, you know, the basic ones that maybe students have used before or don't really want to get into because it might be really easy for them. Like the Canva one, if it's just making a poster, maybe if you had a list of projects you could choose from every week that you could dive into and be like, oh, I really want to learn how to do this. I think one problem with that though would be maybe people would choose easy ones just because they're easy. But that's kind of my thoughts on the project part.
Well, awesome. If we are, I'll
I
do
have one
this.
more thing.
Oh, go ahead. No,
Sorry.
it's totally
It was
fine.
about the oral exams. So as I was looking at the data, sorry if my screen goes off right now, but I noticed that, you know, a lot of people were saying things like, yes, I get really nervous for this. I wish it wasn't so stressful, things like that. And it was very split. There was a lot of people that were like, nope, I'm totally fine with it. And other people that were like, oh, this is super stressful. So we've talked a lot about how at the beginning of the semester it was stressful, but what would be some ways that we could like change this if we were the teachers? What would we change about the oral exams to make them less stressful?
I think definitely kind of doing a mock run first. And if I remember correctly, we did do that, but also kind of elaborating to the students that it's more just a discussion. And if you participate and interact with the class and everything and give input, then really you're golden, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I always like in the beginning, I thought I had to wait to be called on in order to get my points. But then later in the semester, I realized, oh wait, but if I just raise my hand on a question I do know, then he won't ask me questions later. And so if maybe he could even just say that, like if you don't want me to call on you, but you feel really good with one question, then raise your hand and then you can just get it over with in that way. But I also like the idea, Miranda, to just say it more as it is. And like, this is totally chill. Don't even let the word exam freak you out. It's really just a discussion.
So I remember when Bro Paul first presented it freaked me out so much because he was talking, I don't remember the background behind it, but he was talking about how in a foreign country he went to, I don't know if he went to it or not, how they did oral exams and how they're usually harder than, you know, the multiple choice stuff. But I've also noticed now that the course is wrapping up, he doesn't really have to call on people anymore. We, as a class, want to talk about it and discuss.
Yeah. We step on each other's toes a lot. And that's just because we're all growing teachers and we all want to say our piece and, you know, really contribute. And that's the kind of conversation that he simulates. It's a conversation that you want to contribute to. And I think something that he does well that makes it a little less scary is he has made it clear to us that if we cannot do the readings, we can come to him and tell him first, and we will completely be excused for that day. And I have taken advantage of that once. I had a job interview the next day and I was freaking out. And so actually no, I had a job interview right after that class and I was freaking out and I was like, bro, I didn't do my reading. I'm so sorry. I'm a sinner. He was like, don't even worry. You're totally fine. Good luck with your job interview. See you in class. And I'm like, thank you so much. Like he's so understanding. And I think we need that coming from professors because college is stressful. And that's a great way to show your students that it's not about the grades. It's about their learning. And if they're stressed to the point where they're not going to learn, then don't force them to learn. So I think he does really well at that.
Yeah.
So overall, just being able to present it maybe in a different manner. Because I agree that like at the beginning, I was never stressed about them. But I definitely think at the beginning I was like, oh my goodness, these are going to be so much harder than like an assessment where I have to fill in the blank or just, ABC, select which one's right. But I think they are harder in a way that you're thinking more about what you're saying and what you want to present. But I agree that if you presented it maybe as more of a discussion, it wouldn't scare students as much. I think another thing too, Megan mentioned earlier that sometimes it's hard that she spends a lot of hours on reading. I've noticed that some of the readings are really long, but his questions about the readings only pertain to a certain section of the reading.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if it would also be a good idea to maybe say start at paragraph 3 and read to paragraph 10 or things like that. So students can really dive in and study those particular ones for a good amount of time rather than reading the whole thing trying to find that section and then barely skimming over it because they want to read the whole thing. We're just a society that start and end like, so I feel like it's really hard to focus on a particular section unless we're asked to do that and really study that.
Another thing with the oral exams, at least for me, I'm the kind of person where I totally blank on any sort of normal test. Even if I've studied like super hard and took really good notes, I just completely blank for the most part. And that's what I was most worried about happening with these oral exams. I'm like, he's gonna call on me and it's just all gonna leave my brain. And that hasn't really happened. And if it has, he'll come back to me and let me have time to gather my thoughts. Sure. But yeah.
Very true. Alrighty. If it's all right, I think I'm gonna share my screen so that way we can talk about. Miranda, if you can let me share my screen, that would be great.
Yes.
And I have my plus for this class and my not so plus for this class. I prefer that term over.
Okay, you should be able to share.
Thank you so much. Let's do it. Okay, excuse my messy. Okay, here we go. All right, let's talk. Okay, so my plus for this semester has been BroPot, and this sounds like such a weird way to phrase this, but genuinely, BroPot is the best professor I've ever had, and I have been so blessed to be able to be in his class. I always think that teachers make such a difference in the lives of students. That's the reason I want to become a teacher, is because I had a teacher that showed me what I was good at, and it was teaching. And BroPot does the same thing for me. He really inspires me to not only become a better teacher, but to think more about teaching and to think about what it really means to be a teacher. Not only that, let's talk about how goofy he is. I love teachers with personalities. I think if you're a teacher, you better have a personality, because no one wants to sit in class and have like, okay, class, today we're going to be reviewing the Magna Carta. Please turn to page 364. Like, no one wants that, please. Okay, Severus Snape, like, chill. But BroPot is amazing at this. He has a personality, and he uses this personality not only to help us want to be in class, because sometimes I do have a hard time wanting to be in class, but not only to help us want to be in class, but also to help us form a sense of community, which is so important when it comes to learning. He starts off every class with memes. That's not for everyone, but it's definitely for me. I love the heck out of it. I think it is amazing. It really encourages me to show up for class, because if I miss a meme, then I'm going to feel really bad. Not only that, but it makes me laugh at 10:15 in the morning when otherwise I'm not the happiest to be awake. So I went to the survey data, and BroPot asked what people would rate him on Rate My Professor. And here are the results. He did not get anything below a 4. And that, I think, is so impressive. He got 29 5s and 15 4s out of the entire class. Some of these are duplicates, but it's hard to weed those out, so we're just going to have to take with the data that we have. I think it's so impressive that he couldn't even get below a 4, and that it's majority 5s. I just think that speaks for itself. He's an amazing teacher and really takes content and spins it around to make us question content, and that's amazing. I love teachers that can be like, here's what I'm supposed to teach you, what do you think? And we actually get to
Learner.
I'm sorry.
He makes you into an active learner.
Oh yeah, active learner 1000%. We actually question our content, and that's not something you usually see in schools. Most schools are like, here's what's happening, let me spoon feed it to you, this is the truth, take it.
Can I say something about that a little bit? Awesome. So that's something I really like about Bropa as well, is he's just very, you can tell he's put a lot of thought, not only into his teaching, but his philosophy and where he's at in life. And he's always willing to share that with us, but he never forces what he believes on other people.
Oh, very true.
Which I think is very key, but he also helps them question why they believe the way that they do. And he helps us see that things are good where they're at. Like schools are great, like learning and education is awesome, but like we can always do better. And I love it because we learned a couple weeks ago about being a leader, like a good manager and someone who is a bad manager. And I feel like he's such a great manager because he doesn't just say it, he also practices it. He is always looking to change. Like this is why he's having us do this project right now, where we talk about how the class can improve and what we like about it. And he has us do both. It's not just like, okay, this is what I hate about like everything about this class. It's about the good things as well as how we can improve. And that's what this whole life is about. And he really takes teaching and education and helps us realize how it applies over our entire lives. And that, you know, this is the reason why we're here, is to learn and grow on earth. And I think that's so amazing that he's able to bring the gospel into the class in such a meaningful and powerful way.
Yeah,
I jump in?
that. Go ahead.
So when I first was enrolling for classes, the whole class was full. And so I added myself to the wait list because I was looking at Rate My Professor. I use that when I am enrolling for courses a lot. And I don't know, I read about Bropa from the student reviews, and honestly, I just felt, I don't know if it was the spirit or maybe just me really wanting to see how he was as a teacher, but I felt really impressed that I needed to take his class and take it from him, even though the class was full. So I put myself on the wait list, and then I went ahead and put myself in another class that was still open with another professor who I don't even remember their name anymore. And then the next morning, because it was still really early on in the registration process, I was like, oh, someone's sure to drop out of the course. And sure enough, the next morning I get the email, hey, you have 24 hours to enroll for this class now because you have a spot. And I am so glad I took that spot. I absolutely love Bropa. I'm not a conventional learner, but Bropa's not exactly the conventional teacher either. And that's something I love about him. I love his energy. There was one day, me and my roommates, it's one of those rare days where we were all in the same place at once. We were all in the living room or in the kitchen. And I was doing class out there, and they were both just laughing so hard at different things Bropa was doing. And it was really funny because they loved him and they had no idea who he was. And I remember putting in the chat that my roommates loved it, and that they weren't even part of the course, and he read that out loud and immediately said, then your roommates need to get a life.
I remember that.
On the floor laughing. It was so funny. And just the fact that people who aren't even taking his class can see how much he cares, but also how just Bropa he is.
Oh, 1000%. Yeah, my boyfriend knows all about Bropa. Every time I talk about it, I was like, oh, I have this really cool teacher. Every time I talk about that, he's like, oh, Bropa? And I'm like, of course it's Bropa. And I think we got to see his personality from the very first email he sent out. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he sent out the funkiest email, and I was dying. And so I took screenshots and I sent it to my mom. I was like, Mom, look at this teacher I have. He's so funky. I love him. And she's like, oh, he's gonna be a handful. And I'm like, oh yeah, but so am I. You better get ready, you know?
Yeah,
I almost deleted that email because I thought he was a crazy German teacher.
Oh my
Like,
God.
how did they get into my email?
I thought it
Oh,
was
yeah.
spam or something, and,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, oh, okay, this is my professor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
then
That's Propa.
I applied for a TA position. I don't know if anyone else in this group did, and ended up getting an email because apparently I made shortlist. I don't even know because Bropaw couldn't decide who he wanted as a TA eventually, so he's sticking with the ones he has now, and they're wonderful TAs. But just that whole email was hilarious that he sent out to all the prospective TAs that he wanted as TAs, and it like you didn't even feel bad that like no one got interviewed and no one was going to get the position because he just made you feel so good, I guess.
Yeah. Good on him. Awesome. I think we could talk for hours about Propa. So I'm going to move to my not so good part of this class really quick. And then we can talk more about Bropa if you so desire. I wanted to talk about group presentations. And so group presentations were my least favorite part of this class, and I will tell you why. I do pay attention to class. I love class and I love to pay attention, especially when it comes to group projects or group presentations, because they're always discussing our main project for the week. And I want to do really good on this project. And so whenever we had group presentations, I tried so hard and I focused so hard, which is really rare for me because I have a really bad attention span. But I focused so hard, I still understood nearly nothing. I'm talking virtually nothing came out of these group presentations for me personally. And it differs depending on the person. But I just could not. I could not get behind them. And I just felt like I was being lectured to, but not in like a good way. I also felt like they were showing me this presentation, but I had no idea what it was like about until I had gone and like read the rubric, read the description. And so I always felt like I was more understanding of the projects after the group presentation when I would just go to the project description and read about it and look at the rubric. And I think that would have just been easier for me, especially because group presentations took so much time out of our class that we could have been learning other things. And so I went on to our survey that we took and I got some opinions from other people that were in the survey. So I would like to read them. So this first one says, I think the group's presenting doesn't work for being on Zoom. I honestly learned nothing from it. I just take a pic of the rubric and then figure it out for myself. I feel like I walk away from the class on Tuesdays feeling like I could have almost not come to class and been fine in class. There was a time that I did not come to class on Tuesday. I overslept, my bad. And I didn't know what was going on with the group presentations until I read the rubric and I completely understood the project by itself without the group presentation. And so I resonate with this comment. The second comment says, the group presentations take way too much of our class time. 20 minutes is far too much valuable time where we could be learning. I honestly don't listen most of the time when the group is presenting because I've already read the description on Canvas and they're regurgitating that information. So once again, it's just equal to the description on Canvas and takes way too much time. And we could totally be doing other fun learning activities or discussions or anything else. And I genuinely feel like if Bropa explained the project in 5 minutes, I would get way more from it. Another thing that we could do instead of group presentations, so I can, come up with a solution instead of just complaining. Bropa has been trying to implement us going into our groups and breakout rooms. So I think it would have been equally effective to just go into our groups, look at the rubric together, look at the page on Canvas where he talks about the project, discuss what we think we're supposed to be doing, and leave, and then have any questions that need to be answered by Bropa. And I think that would be equal to, if not more effective, and save us a whole bunch of time. So that is my little piece. I love Bropa and I hate group presentations. So if anyone wants to comment, you feel free.
Just I'm gonna comment really quick. Me and Megan talked a little bit about like the idea a couple days ago of going out into breakout rooms and discussing there, and then coming back and Bropa explaining things. I think that's like a perfect way to do it. I wonder if he does like group projects so that people and like presentations so that people can have a group project in the semester. And I feel like that's a reason why I struggle with these group projects a little bit, or like these group presentations, because I feel like it's almost just trying to check a box, if that makes sense.
Very true. I agree.
So I feel like maybe there's a better way to do a group project or a group presentation. Not quite sure. Maybe this just isn't a class where you need a group presentation, maybe group projects, but maybe not a group presentation. So I definitely agree with that. One thing I do like about group presentations is sometimes they give insight that is not on the rubric. So I do like when they're like, oh, it's really hard to upload on this, so you need to go to YouTube and upload a video there, and then you can do stuff from there. So I do like comments like that, but I don't like the rubric being presented at me, because just like Megan said, it's a lot easier to go in your breakout rooms, discuss together, learn from each other there. You can have a good little discussion group going on too. I feel like you'd get to know your group a lot better as well, because I don't think we've had a lot of opportunities in class to break off into your group and, you know, talk about projects that are going on. So it's a great way to like connect in that way, as well as when you come back, you'll have questions, just like she said, where you can ask Bropa questions and you can answer stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my insight on that.
So for me, I'm on Zoom like 99% of the time. I think the only time I've been in person was when we presented our Nearpod presentation, just because right now it seems easier for me. And I agree that the group presentations aren't really the best for Zoom, because honestly, I get distracted anyways. I have a terrible attention span, but you know, I can't really hear the students. I can't really see what they're presenting. It's because if they don't share the screen, then I can't see what's happening on the whiteboard. But also just in general, like I have health issues. Attendance tends to be something I struggle with sometimes, but I've missed a few Tuesday classes, and sometimes the group presentations help me have the insight, but I go look at the project myself and I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of it just from looking at it by myself.
Yeah. Super true. Thank you guys.
I can go next.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, wait, so I click share first. I think. Okay, wait. How do I click share? Okay. All right, so can you guys see this? I feel like my computer's having a tantrum.
Yeah, it's not showing.
It just says Hannah start screen
Oh.
share.
Oh,
There we
it is.
go.
Okay. So something that I did like this semester was the mental health conversations we had at the end of class. And I thought about this a lot when we watched the What is School For video, because it talks about we learn all these things in math, we learn about atoms and stuff, but kids also need to learn like important life things, like how to deal with mental health. What is mental health? And that part really stood out to me in the video. And then when working on this project, it made me realize Bropa totally does that in this class. There were so many days he made it important to reserve the last 10 minutes so that he can talk about mental health in some way, or tricks on how to be happier. And when he was talking about sleeping at night, like, well, what time do you go to bed? And then what time do you turn off your phone and actually go to bed? And my roommate has been having this problem all semester, and it's totally messed with her mental health. And so because I was able to learn that from him, I was able to teach that to her. And I just think it's really important. And I looked at the data, and people who enjoyed the lectures, 4.6 out of 5. That's incredible, because I feel like lectures are so boring. So that's really cool. And then people who found the class engaging, 8 out of 10. So, I mean, obviously with this data, he did something really good. And then, okay, so that I would have tweaked or just taken out. People who liked the social media project, 3.6 out of 5. This was one of the lower scores of all of the projects. So that said something to me. And then when people talked about just their thoughts on all of the projects as a whole, 9 people talked about how much they disliked the social media project. And I felt like that was kind of a high number. And then some quotes that people said was they wish the project was more meaningful, they just didn't like it, they didn't learn a lot. And then a big thing was a lot of students, for personal reasons, are trying to stay away from social media. And so I just felt like if there's ever an assignment that kind of goes into people's personal lives and is a problem in that aspect, then maybe we should just take it out. And so a way that I would tweak this project, I think I would just take it out, because I really didn't get a lot from it and it was pretty stinking easy. I think as just part of one of his 10-minute lectures at the end of class, he can talk about social media and how it's really, cool as a teacher to be able to put out super positive things in the world, or even just as people. We need to remember to always be positive and not to spend too long on social media in general. So that would just be my little fix. What are you guys' thoughts?
So for me, I don't remember what I rated the social media project, but I definitely didn't really enjoy it. It felt more even though it was one of the simpler projects, it felt more stressful to me because I was like, oh, I have to go make this LinkedIn profile and then I have to follow 100 people, and I ended up following a lot of random organizations and people that I didn't even really know of, in order to fill the quota. And I understand, flooding the world with goodness through social media, but like you said, I feel like that's something that he could present within the last 10 minutes of class, is how to use social media for the benefit of spreading good.
Yeah, or he even could have made that little spreading good via social media. Could have made that like a little extra credit assignment. That way it's up to us. It's a personal choice whether we want to post to our own social medias or not. I personally wasn't necessarily the most comfortable with creating a Twitter for my school account. I don't know what my friends would say if they found that. And I remember I came to class one time just to work during one of the workshops, and I was talking to some girls in there, and they were like, yeah, I'm totally gonna delete all of this when we're done. I'm not gonna keep my portfolio, I'm not gonna keep my Twitter, I'm gonna make a new LinkedIn. Like, I was like, oh wow, like I'm so sorry. Like I didn't mind that much, of course, but for them it was just kind of forced. And when we do stuff on social media, I think it should come from a place of like natural, like this is my social media, this represents me, this is my platform, let me naturally come up with things that I feel. And when it's like in that context, like you have to follow 100 people, you have to get 10 matches, you have to post 3 things about this, that's not necessarily that natural coming from us. So I think extra credit, like just send a screenshot of you posting something positive on social media. That would have been like super nice. We could have decided for ourselves if that was something that represented us and we wanted to be on our social media, things like that.
I was comfortable making a LinkedIn because the last one I had was not the best. So I feel better about this one. I think I'll keep it. But I didn't have a Twitter before this class, and I have not looked at it since that project.
Yeah, me neither.
And I probably won't. LinkedIn, I've used a little bit more since the project. I'm trying to get into the habit of using it. But at the same time, I understand that schools will look at your social media to get a feeling of who you are and see if they want to hire you. But at the same time, if I'm not too worried about it, then what's the point in making these other things that I'm not going to use?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say I love what Hannah was saying, that you could just do a quick discussion on it, because it is really important to understand that schools will look at your social media and
Oh,
what
yeah.
you're posting, and that's really awesome. And I love the readings that we did on social media, that like social media can be really effective, and I really like that because I sometimes struggle with accepting social media, and even for like my children and things like that. So it's really great to talk about that within class and things like that. um but definitely when I was doing this project, I told some people that I was doing this and they thought it was hilarious, because like I would never get a Twitter in my life, and my fiance was like laughing at me about it. He still does to this day. But so it's definitely something that I would change. I love maybe the idea of inviting people to spread positivity, because that was a lot of like this message as well. So you can do that through text. So maybe just giving the option of sharing one or two things positively, and like thinking about who needs that message and sharing that with them, making it a little bit more specific and just helping us, reach out and love other people. Another idea that came to me as we were talking, brought me back to the good manager, bad manager thing. I think that would be an amazing project. Maybe studying in society a good manager and a bad manager, and maybe following them, not on like social media necessarily, but just following the type of uh, things that they put out there, videos, maybe lectures they've given, and just what makes them a positive leader and what makes other people, a bad leader. And he asked that as part of the question in the reading, like give an example in society of a good leader and a bad leader. And it was so hard for me in that moment to like stop and take time to think about that. And it was something that I really would have loved to like research more, to figure out what a good manager would be and what a bad manager would be.
Yeah.
Something I liked over all of the projects is that, yes, there were lots of practical and temporal uses, but each of them kind of touched on spirituality and the gospel at least a little bit. And I like how it wasn't like the entirety of the projects, because we're not in a religion class, we're in this education class where we're learning how to use this technology. But just the fact that it was like, oh, like for social media, we read Elder Bednar's talk. It's like, okay, here's what apostle has said about it, stuff like that.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I agree. I think he always found a way to bring spirituality into it, which I love. And I also wanted to touch on what Hannah said about mental health. I think that is amazing that he took time out of his class to talk about mental health. I always admire teachers that can do that. And as a teacher, I am planning on doing that, because mental health, sorry, my roommates are loud. Mental health at this day is so important. We, especially as college students, are going through so much up here. I know I am. I don't know about you guys, but it's a lot. It's strenuous and it's hard. And we have been experiencing as a society an incline of mental health problems. And if you look at any data, any statistic, you'll see that. And so it's becoming more and more prevalent to actually address it in classrooms. And ROPA does an amazing job at that. Something else I loved about this semester, and something that I'm going to take with me through the rest of my teaching career, is the warm demander chart. And yeah, that chart is so amazing to me, because I have always in my head been like, you know what, as a teacher, I'm going to be a cool teacher. Like, I'm going to have great connections with my kids, and I'm going to be lenient with them. I understand students. I understand that they have hard times. They don't turn in an assignment. That's fine. Like, we'll work through it together. No, this chart has changed my perspective as a teacher. I need to be there for my students, and that includes being hard on them, or holding a bar that sometimes might feel a little bit out of reach, but somewhere that they can get to and really progress as students. And so I have to teach in another class. I have Ed 361, teaching principles and assessments, and so I have to teach like every week in that class. And yeah, I know. And I took that chart and it was my turn to teach. And instead of teaching the lesson, I was like, guys, here's the warm demander chart. We're going to go over this because I just learned this in my other class. And I think this is so important. You guys need to know all about it. And they all loved it. And so I think BroPod does an amazing job at that and showing us that we are not being fair to our students if we are not challenging them to grow and to be educated. So I loved that.
Yeah, I know this class teaches so much about just like life in general, you know, because I feel like all these things I'm so excited to be a parent one day in my life, and all these things have taught me how to be a better parent as well, and just like a better sibling, a better person, just reaching out in love, but also like holding expectations for people, as well as like going forward, like you said, like talking about mental health and like talking about things that like really matter. And he talked a lot about things like pornography and like how to use social media and how to like address that with, you know, children specifically, not necessarily students, but you know, these are things that we're all gonna face in our lives. And I feel like that's really amazing that he was able to bring that into a classroom.
So true. Do we want to take 5 minutes to just talk about the course overall and then wrap up? Sure. Let's do it. So overall, big picture, this course, what are we going to take with us?
Overall, I think this course is good in general. I'm at the point where I'm not sure if I'm going to be a teacher. Like I'm a special education major specifically, and I love it. I just don't know if I'm meant to be teaching in a classroom.
Mhm.
But even if I choose a different path, a lot of these lessons I'm going to take with me. You know, the social media, the mental health. Like you said, Eliza, it's good for parenting as well. And just, I'm going to take that overall fun feeling of this class, like the class culture, and keep that with me and try to establish that in any of my future classes, because I honestly love the class culture we have. I love our Zoom chat. It's funny, but you also get the help you need. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I think what stood out to me was, and I know like he always has made the point, like, I want this to be a hard class. It doesn't have to be a hard class for it to be beneficial. Like, I was trying to think of all of my classes, and 3 of them that I can think of, I have not gained anything. And I don't think I will remember much. But this class has been so beneficial, and it's actually been one of my easiest. And so I think it's okay to have a class that people can breathe a little and feel good about and still learn a ton. So I'll just try and incorporate that somehow as a teacher in the future.
I feel like if we didn't take this class from Bropaw, then it probably would seem harder.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know what it is about Bropaw, but he just makes it feel so easy.
yeah.
Mhm.
Even if it was easier, I feel like it would have seemed harder.
Yeah, I think overall, like you're saying, it's kind of his teaching strategy. Like, I think we do hard things, but they're made easy through, you know, just the way that he teaches. And, you know, we've been learning a lot about that, like, we can do hard things. And so it's not necessarily that, like, whoa, this is so like easy. It's such a breeze. Like, I don't have to do anything in this class. It's more for me that I've just been enabled to do hard things. And I feel really confident because Bropaw helps me feel confident. You know, he teaches, no, you can do this. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. And for me, that's where the idea of like this class isn't hard comes from, is just because like I can do it.
Very true. I think when I was registering and I saw that I had to take a class called Technology for the 21st Century, I flipped crap because I am not a technology person. I am so bad at it. I'm gonna suck as yeah, I'm gonna be one of those teachers. Where is the how do you make this full screen? That's gonna be me. And so I was like, man, I'm gonna have to do like Excel and like data and da-da-da. And when I got into this class and I got that first email from Bropa, I was like, you know what? Bring it on. He's gonna be awesome and I'm excited for it. And it wasn't even that. He's taken this class and it's become so much more than technology for the 21st century. It's genuinely a class on how to be a better person, how to think more about what you're doing, how to really like criticize society, how to, of course, use technology and ed tech tools and all that, and how to express yourself and be the best version of you that you can be. And I think that he's done an amazing job at that. He's done an amazing job at making me want to learn, making me want to criticize my surroundings and be a more critical thinker. So I really love that how he handled this entire class. I think it's become so much fun.
And just as bro pot in general, at least for me, he's gonna be one of those professors that I'll probably try to visit throughout the rest of my time here. Even if he didn't remember me, I'd still just be happy to just, be able to say hi,
Very true. He is a very warm presence. All right. If no one else has any comments left, then I think that this should wrap up our discussion.
Mhm.
Thank you guys so much for chatting. This has been super awesome.
It's been fun actually.
It's been super fun. Get it all out. Spill it. Ran it. All right.
All right.
I think we're good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.